All right. Hello and welcome everybody to another video. Thanks for tuning in. I am currently working on my very first comic book. It's exciting times for me. It's a lot of work because I do have a full-time job, but things are really exciting for me right now because the book is going very well and it will be available at the end of the month. So I thought I would take this opportunity to talk about all the things I've learned to help me with this process, to share everything I've researched, and I thought I would just make a comprehensive video that that states everything that I think will be useful for everybody out there trying to start a comic book, okay? So the first thing you want to do is outline your story. You want to properly explore your ideas and then you want to write out the story to the best of your ability. It doesn't have to be Shakespeare, so don't pressure yourself. You know, back in the golden age of comic books, Stan Lee didn't write out full stories for the comic books we've come to know and love. He would just give his artists, such as Jack Kirby, an outline. And then King Kirby would go off and fully realize said outline with his own flourishes, which would then culminate into some of the greatest comic books, stories, and heroes in history. So don't be too precious about the story because the artwork is going to be a major factor in the end product. Next up is iterate. Don't be attached to anything. There's an expression in creative writing, and it also applies to every creative endeavor out there, and that is kill your babies. Don't be precious about your work. Don't get attached. Submit to change. You can count on the fact that stories change from inception to final product. So trust the process. The next thing you want to do that I think is very, very helpful, and it took me a while to realize this, is you want to make your story short, at least your very first couple stories, your very first couple productions. When I first started out, I would try to write these epics and try to be like the artists and authors I idolized, and that was a mistake. If you want to successfully produce a comic book and publish it, I think you should start off with something short. It's easy to amend a short story than it is an epic six-part saga. So short stories are a great way to enter the world of writing and comic books. It's also helpful to use story references or flat out base your work on an already successful short story. A good example of this is Hellboy. Hellboy is easy to digest and fun to read because it's mostly a bunch of short stories. Yes, there's a huge overarching arc that follows the journeys of Hellboy, which is currently finished. Mike Mignola has completed the Hellboy story, the last of which took place in Hell. It's unbelievably epic. I suggest everybody pick that up and check it out. So keep it short, because if the story is short, you're more likely to get rid of it if it's not working out, because it's short, and as such you can produce a number of them and pick the one that works best. Also, Neil Gaiman's Sandman is a good example of a collection of short stories that, in my opinion, make the whole story more accessible and epic, as one story takes place on Earth, another in dreams, and another in hell. That's a lot of scope. Next up, I can't overstate the use of references. Use stories like Hellboy, Sandman, or any kind of short fiction out there you can, that you like, that you can get your hands on. But also, references help for characters, settings, action, and word balloon placements. Google is such a great tool. Hit up anything you're looking for on Google and click on the images button and use that as a reference. It'll make your work look a lot better. Okay, this is another thing that was very hard for me to get used to because I wanted everything that I produced to come from me, but there's nothing new under the sun. Okay, so humble yourself, don't be too precious, and use those references. You're not reinventing the wheel. So once again, take the pressure off of yourself and don't be overly precious about the work you might potentially produce. Now, here are some comic specific tips. The 22-page cliffhanger. While writing and eventually drawing your comic or manga, you want to use tools specific to the comic book medium. The 22-page cliffhanger is where you ensure that every page of your comic book or manga or story is engaging. And if you get really good at this, you might make every line engaging, every panel engaging, right? You want to keep it so that the last panel of your page entices your reader to want to turn the page. You want to keep going up until the 22nd page of your comic book, or depending on how long it is. That is the 22-page cliffhanger. Tools like the page turn, right? I just kind of described that, but that is, for example, on the last panel, on the page of a page of your comic book, you could have a character turning around and saying what or freaking out at something, and then when the reader turns the page, you show what that character is reacting to, right? That is just a very simple example, but there are way more sophisticated ways to do that, to engage your audience consistently for 22 pages. Another comic specific tip is stretching and compression of time, right? So if you have, let's say, 9 panels is the advised maximum you should have on a page, but a lot of artists play with that. You can have 12 panels. It could be as many as you want, but the more panels, the more you are thinning out time, right? If you have, let's say, 5 panels on one page, you could use that to express slow motion. Or if you have, let's say, 22 panels of a page, that could describe rapid succession of movement, like a hand-to-hand fight, right? Another tool is frame/panel composition. The rule of thirds, the golden ratio. Movies use this, comics use this, manga use this, paintings use this, right? So you want to pay attention to that and research that to know how to compose panels and pages to properly guide your reader's eyes, and using these concepts make your images more pleasing to the reader, to the eye. Another tool is using color to elicit specific emotional responses from the reader. Like, colors have meaning. You can research this. For example, purple is used for kings, used for secrets, red for anger. You know, you often hear the term yellow belly, which means a coward. So you can use yellow to describe, a cowardly scene, right? Or you can use blue to emphasize a sad scene, right? A cooler, more atmospheric scene, right? So using color to elicit emotional responses from a reader. Show, don't tell, another tool. It's very easy to rely on text and word balloons, right? In comic books, but you want to use the comic specific tools that are available to you, right? You're not writing a novel, you're drawing a comic book. Just like in a movie that is exposition heavy isn't a good idea, right? You want to show the characters experiencing things which will elicit emotion from the audience. This is the same for comic books. So you don't want to fill your panels with words. You want to fill them with art, story-specific art, right? Use the medium to express the themes of your comic. Drawing. Another tip I have for you folks today is stay true to your story. Everything you do in a comic should service a story. So if you feel attached to specific sequences of events, specific drawings, specific characters, if they do not work to push the story forward or to get the story to where it needs to be, then you should get rid of it. Kill your babies. Don't get too attached. Fail quickly. Next up, we have infuse your story with emotion. You want your reader to feel something while reading your comic. A way to achieve emotional content in your work is by using story structure. Proper use of story structure will create an arc for your characters, where a character goes from one state of mind to another because of the events that take place in your story. For instance, your character starts off believing one thing and eventually believes something else due to what takes place in the narrative and the characters he or she interacts with. This is a primal concept with regard to human beings because we often change our opinions, we change our emotional states, our political affiliations. So it's important to include this in your stories to make them believable. You can also write stories where characters don't change, like Goku from Dragon Ball Z or Batman, or one from One Punch Man. If you're exploring characters like these, it's the characters around them that have arcs or are used to explore different aspects of the main character. For instance, Batman stories, Two-Face is used to explore the duality of Batman, being Bruce Wayne and Batman. The Joker explores the fact that Batman is an anarchist, taking the law into his own hands, basically doing what he pleases, and so on and so forth. So you can definitely write stories like that, but make sure to do a lot of research to make sure your work holds up. Next up, we have story structure. Learn story structure. A great tool that helps with this is Dan Harmon's Story Circle. It has 8 points. The first of which is the character in a state of comfort or his everyday life. Let's take Batman for example. He's on patrol at night. Number two is the character wants something. Maybe a character has perpetrated a crime, and then the Batman has to respond. Right? The Batman number three now. The Batman investigates the crime. He enters an unfamiliar situation. So the third point of the story circle is he enters an unfamiliar situation. The journey begins. Number four is search. Batman investigates, faces obstacles. Here, Bats usually gets his ass kicked, and the bad guy escapes. If you study a lot of Batman stories, you find that he gets his ass kicked twice, but on the third try, he gets his man, right? Number five is find. This is where he gets his man, or he knows who the bad guy is, the mystery bad guy is. The hero finds what he's looking for, catches the bad guy. Number six is take. This is where he apprehends the bad guy. This is the face-off. But when he takes, he pays a price. Like in the case of Under the Red Hood, Bats has been chasing the Red Hood, but when he finds out who the mystery man is, he also has to deal with the fact that the Red Hood is his dead protege, Jason Todd. Right? He pays a price. Number seven is return. Batman returns to his everyday shenanigans, which is at night patrolling. Go back to where they started. Right? And number eight is change. He goes back to his familiar situation, now capable of change. Having to deal with his failure to save Jason Todd, Bats now has to seriously consider the risk of taking on sidekicks. So that's all I have for you folks today. Once again, I'm hard at work using these things I've learned for my own process, and you will see the results at the end of the month with my comic book. So stay tuned for more videos. They're going to be coming out every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you like my work and would like to support me, you can visit my Patreon, which I hope you do, because I do have a full-time job, but would love to just produce comic books, cartoons, and videos like this one for a living. And you kind folks out there can help me do that. Plus, my patrons will be privy to exclusive content, giveaways, and first dibs on my product like comic books, posters, cartoons, and t-shirts. Which gives me a great segue into my online store, where you can purchase t-shirts, leggings, and other cool items featuring third-person art. All the links are below. Don't be shy, and I'm sure it'll be worth your time just to even check out. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.